Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. So I always use the line about Raiders is like, all right, when's it officially hockey seasons? Well, when the Raiders are out of playoff contention. And people say like, oh, RJ, like you're so fresh with the Raiders, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, yeah, like most seasons when you're basically eliminated from the playoffs by Halloween, you kind of move on pretty quick. We made it past Halloween, barely. We made it into early November. We're not mathematically eliminated, but at 2-7 in a 5-game losing streak, it's officially draft season, Soto. It is the whoever it is on the clock, and we will be however many spots behind. That's how I'm looking at the rest of the season.
We're officially in discovery and development right now.
The discovery phase of the trial.
We're discovering who on the squad is worth sticking with, and
research and development
not sticking with. Yeah, that's all we're doing right now. Out of the 3Ds, the draft comes later, but right now we're in discovery.
And you'll never hear Antonio Pierce admit it, and it might actually even be true. Like he's still like trying to win, but that is his job. Like you don't like because seriously, like if you're a CEO head coach like Antonio Pierce is, right? You're not an offensive coordinator, you're not a defensive coordinator, you're not, it's like scheme guy, and it's not. You can be a great coach that way, right? That's a scenario. You can still be a good coach. It doesn't mean you're trash, but when you're that, all you really have is keeping your guys motivated, the locker room going, keeping guys playing hard and believing. Like that's really all you got at this point. So you're going to see Antonio Pierce continue to put out his best, like have his guys play their best, try to keep winning. We'll get to Getsy here in a second, but that's what else can he possibly do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're like a super duper star that even if you quit on a team's going to want you, right? Mm-hmm. You have to put good tape out there.
Yep.
So there's still always that. Like you still want to make sure, because I mean, he's going to tell the guys, "Hey, we're looking to see who we can win with." He's not telling them that who we can win with next season because this season doesn't matter, But yeah, we're still looking for people we want to win with, and every single play, every single game is an audition for all 32 teams. So the guys are going to still try. They're going to still try to win. It just depends on if they're put in the position to win.
And Telesco and maybe even Mark Davis might intervene a little bit, like positional coaches. You'll see more like younger guys getting reps in. Again, we're not built to tanking almost true tanking, like NBA team tanking. Like that rarely ever happens. And that isn't the case here, where like guys are trying to lose and a head coach is trying to lose.
Yeah, you don't have guaranteed contracts, and it's like there's too many players in the NBA. Like 1-2 guys, you sit 1-2 guys because they have a hangnail or something, then you can blow games, right? But it's so much more difficult, and the big thing is the non-guaranteed contracts. These guys want to get paid, and they just can't just sit back and be like, oh well, I got a 12-year contract. You have to pay me. It's not how it works.
You want me to half-ass it for a season? I'm in. Stay less. I'm totally down for it.
Yeah.
Football players, they don't have that option.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not possible for them. So, but yeah, you'll see younger guys get more reps. You'll see like, hey, if Maxx Crosby has any sort of injury, they may say, oh no, you're sitting this game, even though kicking and screaming, we're going to put you in a straitjacket, Max, because it's just not worth it. Come on, relax, calm down. I mean, who's gonna we got the bye week coming up? Who starts at quarterback against the Dolphins?
Yeah, it's a good
right.
question.
Like, do you get like the brand new dude that's been here for 45 minutes, or like what's the point of starting Gardner Minshew? Like we know who he is, we know what he's about.
There's no point. There is no point.
What's the point, right?
Yeah, because it's not like you're trying to develop into something that he can be. You don't know. You don't know what Ritter can do in this offense. The offense itself, that's easy. It's just getting to know the teammates is just going to be reps. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's like we're not running this super complicated offense that's like super hard to understand. No, he's probably played and used some similar type of offense, just the kind of the language and stuff. And from what people were saying, what players were saying, that he was able to spit out the plays just fine in the huddle. So it sounds like Ritter has it. And then, he doesn't have the whole playbook, but I mean, from what I understand, and I said this in the live show, the Getsy got fired live show, is that Getsy was very similar in that sense to like a Paul Gunther, to where he had the whole playbook and just wanted to call everything, be able to call anything. And you don't necessarily need that. And so if you can just put a couple of packages together and some plays off of those personnel groupings and packages and stuff, I'm sure Ritter could handle all that.
So like you mentioned, Soto, you did a live video just moments after it was announced that Luke Getsy is out as offensive coordinator. Quarterbacks coach and line coach gone as well. It'll be Scott Turner coming in, offensive coordinator. Norv Turner, his father, coming in, helping out his youngin. He's got the bye week to install, change, adapt, forge, create, whatever you want to call it, a new offense. So you had the instant reaction with that. If you guys missed it, go back and check it out. But spinning it forward, what went wrong with Getsy? And obviously, Getsy wasn't 100% of the problem. I don't think there's anybody out there saying, dude, this was going to be a top 5 offense, but the offensive coordinator just really shit the bed. Like there's nobody out there. But when an offense is this bad, last in the league in rushing, 77 yards per game, 29th in total offense, 280 yards, last in offensive turnovers, 19, which means the most, and worst turnover margin, minus 14. When you're like last, third to last, you got to go. You got to shake things up. And it's not like Getsy's going to be the whole problem, but he's the easiest fix. Like that's the quickest, easiest. Let's yank you. It's like earlier when the first thing you do is you change quarterbacks. That's this offense is terrible, and you need to jolt start it right. You take the paddles, rub them together, put them on the chest, clear. You're just trying something to jumpstart things. Quarterback's number 1. Tried it, nothing changed. Offensive coordinator's number 2.
Yeah, I think the issue with Getsy and why the spotlight was on him so hot was because he had very predictable, and it was what I'm trying to say here, it was like a pattern of success where he was able to score on the opening drives, and he was able to put up points in the first 1 or 2 drives of the game, but then he had just meltdowns after that.
In the 5-game losing streak, he had 4 touchdowns on opening drives, and basically no touchdowns other than garbage time.
Yeah, four touchdowns, and then the rest of the 50 drives, and they were within 2 minutes of the game ending, and they were all down by 14 or more.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you take a look at that, when you take a step back and say, okay, what is the real problem here? Well, we're having, what was it, 80% success on our opening drives. So the team is capable of moving the ball down the field, even with the injuries that we have, even with trading away Devontae Adams, even with backup quarterback, even with all that, with the turnovers, with everything. We're still able to put up points 80% of the time when we go out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Then you take a look at, 8% of the time, the other 50 drives, we had 4 touchdowns. So from 80% on the first drive to the rest of the drives, 8%. It's a huge drop off. And there's only one explanation for that, and that is the person who is designing and calling the plays. Because it's the same personnel that got you those touchdowns early. It's not like they're just forgot how to play. And it's a type of pattern that's not a player pattern. Mm-hmm. I talked a little bit about it, and I didn't let Minshew go unscathed either. I said, maybe Minshew is having a hard time grasping the rest of the offense because the script is what they practice. They practice those. You don't practice the entire playbook throughout the week. You practice your scripted plays. And so he's comfortable with those. Maybe he wasn't comfortable with the other plays for whatever reason. He wasn't comfortable with the rest of the playbook. And that's a Minshew thing, but it's also a Getsy thing, making sure that you know what your quarterback is comfortable with and giving him a chance to succeed. If you're calling plays that your quarterback isn't comfortable with, that's on you. And if you're the quarterback and you're not comfortable with plays and either you're not speaking up or you're just not grasping the playbook the way you should, that's another big problem. And it could be everything. It could be all those things. Mm-hmm. But for sure we know it is the play caller's fault after the script. That's the problem that we were having, and that falls pretty much solely on Luke Getsy because those same players were scoring when they were on the script.
Yeah, and it comes down to like practice schedule and stuff, which is an AP thing. You know, it's like make sure we get these guys prepared, right? Like when you're just doing the scripted stuff, you're figuring it out. Like as head coach, I need to say, okay, this is what we're succeeding at. How do we expand that, right? How do we change our practices to maximize what we're doing well and minimize what we're not doing? But like, you know, like you're 100% right on Getsy, and it's true that like there's plenty of blame to go around. Like we have arguably the worst quarterback room in football, arguably the worst running back room in football. O-line is a mess, particularly after all the injuries. But the biggest thing is like, who was excited about the Getsy hire? Like he was the third choice behind Chip Kelly and Kingsbury. Like it was like basically just like, all right, he'll take it. And Devontae Adams likes him. From The Athletic, Vic Tafur wrote, that brings us to another, maybe the biggest issue with Getsy. Adam was supposed to be his guy. Getsy was on the Green Bay Packers staff for 7 of Adams' 8 years with the franchise, and Adams said he was consulted before the Raiders hired Getsy. In the 3 games they spent together with the Raiders, however, Adams felt he wasn't utilized properly. So when it's like your third choice and the receivers making the pick, like, I hate to admit it, but this was kind of the inevitable outcome.
It wasn't. There was a chance for it to work because we were having success early in the game. The issue that we ran into is there's a big difference between a play caller and an offensive coordinator. A guy that goes out there and just can call plays, and that's one thing. But a coordinator encompasses a lot of different things. Taking what the defense is doing. I can make sure my cat's all right. It's messing around over here. Make sure what the defense is doing. Anticipation. I mean, the one thing that I heard from about Andy Reid is he sets a lot of traps for defenses where he'll do certain things, anticipating the defense will adjust a certain way, and then he'll bring something different on them. Mm-hmm. And that's just the whole poker playing, chess player type of thing. Where, it just seems like Getsy was just calling a bunch of plays. And, this worked, we just call it again. Well, the teams are going to adjust to that type of stuff. You have to keep your head on a swivel and know, have a plan. And I don't think we had a plan outside of our opening script. And I even got kind of upset, started yelling after the Ram game. It's like, what are you doing with the information you're getting? You call those scripted plays for a reason. You use those personnel packages and those formations for a reason to attack the defense a specific way. Well, what are they showing you that you can take advantage of later? He wasn't using that information, or if he was using the information, he wasn't very good at it because it didn't work. The only thing that worked was scramble time when either Minshew or Ritter was just slinging the ball down the field and no huddle type of thing, and you catch a team in prevent D or kind of like a slowdown, like a modified prevent D, and that's when you were able to score in late in games. Mm-hmm. So not when the team was looking to really stop you and bottle you up. They just were trying to slow you down towards the end of the game. So it's tough when your offensive coordinator is getting shut down by every single defense he plays. Yeah, man, you have to make a choice at that point. There was really no choice to make. It's just there was only one choice to make.
Yeah, at this point, it's not trying to salvage a season. It's just like, why would we keep paying this guy for ineptitude when we can put someone else in there to like, hey, maybe this guy can work for us one day, or maybe let's see what this guy's got. Let's try someone else. And that's why I always hated the like, oh, don't talk about someone's job. That's a man with a family. It's like, dude, there's another man with another family that if this guy can't do the job, he can. That's like, if you are in a position, a very envious position, offensive coordinator in the National Football League, there are 32 of those jobs in the world, and it's the most prestigious. There's hundreds of thousands of high school coaches, junior college coaches, Division II, Division III, other random pro leagues all over the world. You have one of 32 offensive coordinating jobs in the world. You need to defend that job like you're on a hill with a sword fighting a dragon. And the second you're not, it's like it's clear you can't do the job, and this was abundantly clear. Getsy, it's not like Getsy thrived somewhere else and just, hey, it just didn't work out with us. Like, he's yet to prove he's a good offensive mind. He has yet to prove it anywhere in any fashion, right? He gone. And so now we moved on. Scott Turner taking over. Norv Turner is going to join as the senior advisor. James Craig has been replaced as offensive line coach for Joe Philbin. Quarterback coach Rich Scangarello. He was canned. No one replaced him. So I guess the quarterbacks are just going to be off leash for a while. I'm kidding. Someone's going to take over. But the big thing, the most curious thing for me, Soto, outside of like, hey, can Scott Turner be a good offensive coordinator? I'd love to know. I'm very curious. Is he going to be a good offensive coordinator? The other thing I'm really curious to know is if the bullshit sticking to uncreative running continues, then we know that decision came from on high, right? Because it's like, why are they doing this? Is that just how Luke Getsy is? Or is AP telling him, I want 40 runs a game, or I want you to stick to the run pass. I don't like do it. That's the directive. If that continues, we know it wasn't Getsy. We know it was a guy with a much bigger office.
Yeah, I mean, one step further to your previous point, there's a lot of players that have families. And when you're putting out that type of product because your coaching is bad, you're making them look bad. I mean, just think about who I was talking about, okay? Just think about who I was talking about in the last episode, the last post-game show. Just think. You probably have bricks in your head if you didn't know who I was talking about. Just think. You might have bricks in your head. I kind of gave it away. But he doesn't let you talk about certain things on his show. Mm-hmm. And I think it's bullshit. Now, he doesn't have to talk. He doesn't have to chime in on it. But to have a show that's about the people and then censoring what they can say, I think it's horseshit, because he's only thinking about one person's job. He's not thinking about the players' jobs. Mm-hmm. And everyone there is fighting for a job. Everyone there is fighting for a contract. The majority of them have families, and they have, extended families that they take care of and stuff like that. So I think nobody is above reproach.
A lot of illegitimate kids, a lot of child support.
Oh, I mean, you might be a Johnny Appleseed out there just spreading your seed all over the place.
A lot of lawsuits. I mean,
yeah. So it's like, look,
a lot of books, not textbooks.
The issue that we're having here is if this does continue, I don't think it will, because I think Norv Turner's been around the block, and he's going to want Scott to perform well. So even if AP does tell him to do certain things, Norv's going to be like, nah, bro. Listen, son, you need to, you're auditioning as well. So if it could have been either Getsy or AP or both, didn't have any confidence in the offense to do more than what they thought they could. That's why they were so conservative. The issue with that is kind of like, how we play. And what my reasoning was for last season, when you play that conservative, you have to be really good at certain things. You can't turn the ball over. You can't put yourself in bad spots with penalties. You have to have great kicking game, and you got to get lucky. And we are just not as lucky because luck just doesn't happen every single season. We're turning the ball over a whole lot more. We're being penalized a lot more recently, putting us in bad spots. So
Injured as
playing
hell.
that conservative, was that?
Injured as hell.
Injured as hell. When you're playing that conservative type of ball, at some point, you just have to let it go. Let it fly. You know what? Stop being conservative. Call the game that you want to call, because ultimately it's not working out anyway. You might as well go out guns blazing as opposed to, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and you're still turning the ball over left and right. So we'll see. We'll see if Scott Turner is able to do that. But I think Norv's been around quite a bit, and he knows how to play the game. He knows how the game is played. He's had multiple head coaching jobs, multiple offensive coordinator jobs. And this could be a learning time for Scott, not only on the field, but, behind the scenes as well. If I was him, I wouldn't take the same tactic because it didn't work.
If I'm like an old retired NFL made man, I'm sending my son to the Raiders, because it's guaranteed there's going to be a giant coaching change and you're going to get thrust into a big position. It was Mick Lombardi last season. This season it's Scott Turner. Is it going to be Deuce Gruden, head coach next season, mid-season? Someone gets fired and Deuce gets to go from the dude who spots you at the squat rack to calling plays. Deuce Gruden, offensive coordinator next season. If it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen with the Raiders. You're still muted, buddy.
God damn it. You see, I try to be nice so you can't hear me coughing my lungs up.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to think about Deuce calling plays.
At this point, I'm just here for the circus. Like, I'd be like, okay, let's have Zeus.
Look, can we just be honest?
5'6", 300-pound ass, just like can't even fit in the booth.
Can we just be honest? We're fucking awful, dude. We're fucking
It's bad,
terrible.
Man. Like I said,
it's really bad. It's really bad, and it's all over the place. It's all over the place. There's not a quick fix here. So you guys thinking we're just one or two pieces away? We're not. It's a lot going on here, and a lot going on. There's a reason. There's a lot of turnover. There's a reason. There's a reason why I was optimistic about Tom Brady being more involved, because he's not a yes man, and he's not a Mark Davis guy. This is bad, man. This is really bad. We had a very small sliver of a window of opportunity for ourselves, and just the injuries and the issues with coaching and the disgruntled, one of your best players being disgruntled and wanting out, all that stuff, just too much. It's too much for a team that wasn't that talented to begin with.
There's the obvious issues with this team. Quarterback, turnovers, penalties, offensive coordinator. There's the obvious ones. And then there's more kind of foundational, fundamental issues that you can't see in a stat sheet. But this is when I would talk to, like, the rare time I talk to like a really good insider. Like we had AJ Hawk on the show and a couple other people I've talked to. And it's like, you ask about the Raiders and they're just like, they're not taken seriously because of how the front office organization runs. And just like, I remember this was like 15 years ago, I was reading the story about how, like, what's it like on a trade day, on the trade deadline. Like, he sat with an agent for like 18 hours and watched his day as it went to the trade deadline, what it was like, blah, blah, blah. He was telling the stories how he's calling this guy, calling that guy, calling that guy. And he's like, he didn't have a GM's number for the Raiders because it had changed so many times. He literally called the like 800 number that like you or I would call for complaining about season tickets. He like called that number, said like, personnel, please. This is so-and-so. Like, it's just like shit like that. You hear stories like that all the time of just like fundamentally, I've talked about this all the time. Like, it's a ma and pa shop. It should be, they're like, and it's good to have some like blue collar. I came up from the bottom, pulled up my bootstraps. I've proved my mettle. Some guys that are loyal. You want some of that. An organization needs to be well rounded. It can't just be all Harvard MBAs, right? But you need a couple dudes. You need a couple dudes that are pros, like some very serious CEOs that have ran multi-billion-dollar international organizations. That's what an NFL franchise is, especially the Raiders. Despite how bad the last 20 years have been on the field, it is an international, multi-billion-dollar organization. And it can't be handled by some guy that was working in the pro shop 15 years ago that's now a senior VP, if there aren't other guys that understand what's going on there.
Well, I mean, the mentality that I keep fighting against with a lot of the listeners, that just because they're one of the best that we have on this team doesn't mean in the whole NFL they're one of the best. Like, you got to stop thinking about that, thinking in those terms. And it's very similar with the front office as well. Just because he's the best that you got, it's like a Michael Scott. He's just been there long enough where everyone else just goes away and he gets the job. Mm-hmm. You need to have competent people in those positions, and you need to have people that challenge you.
Michael Scott has a trophy room full of Dundies to prove that he's up for the task. He's got the hardware, Soto. I don't know if he's a good example.
I don't know, man. I remember him bragging about buying a coffee mug saying we're no, world's best boss.
It's like I got it for myself. Spencer's Gifts.
Spencer's Gifts. So if you're not challenged in any endeavor, then you're not surrounding yourself with the right people. And I don't know how often Mark Davis is being challenged. And I don't know how freely the people that work for him are able to do their job without having to look over their shoulder for approval. Yeah. And that is a culture thing. That is a culture issue, that decisions are being, I mean, look, fucking Ziegler's dumbass talked a big game, right? Oh, I'm the buck stops with me. I'm the GM, this and that. And we all found out that wasn't true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he set up a trade for number 2 pick, and JMD said, no, you're not doing it. And that's that. And I mean,
that's what I keep saying. If Tom Brady wants to be czar of the Raiders, he'll do it, because Mark Davis is a star fucker. He'll give him the blessing, and he doesn't have to be a yes man. He can come in and say, do this, 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 and this. And just because he's not officially has a title, he doesn't have a business card that says senior VP of whatever, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Mark Davis is going to let him do what he wants.
Realistically, instead of saying do this, this, and this, it'll be put this person here, put this person here, put this person there. That's what it's going to be more than likely. It's putting the people in positions that are like the yes men stoppers, that they won't, like their yes men-ish nature will get blocked by these people in these strategic positions in the company or in the organization,
or they're yes men to Brady, which is also part of it, right? Like, if I put you in this, if I anoint you with this great position, there's going to be a level of loyalty there. We're just hoping, if that's the case, that loyalty to Brady means better decisions than loyalty to Mark Davis, which probably can't be worse, right? I mean, 20 years, pretty terrible. Probably can't be. Right? Like, if you just randomly selected, there's 7 billion people on Earth. You just randomly picked one out and said, all right, you run the Raiders for 20 years. Could it be as bad as Mark Davis?
No.
Pretty bad. It's pretty goddamn awful. Mark Davis's run. Well, one guy who was there when things were good, Mike Lombardi. And he pops his head out of his hole every now and then to talk some shit on the Raiders. And I think it's important to listen to him. It's like when you're hearing a politician speak, even though it's bullshit, it's still important to hear what they're saying, because they're trying to do something with their words. It's like, oh, he's trying to influence these people, or he's trying to influence this policy. I don't believe what he's saying, but it's important you listen to try to figure out what they're doing, right? That's kind of Mike Lombardi. 2 clips. I preface it with that so you guys don't come chase me with, pitchforks and torches for hearing his smug ass talk.
He is smug, isn't he?
He's pretty goddamn smug, and he's got kind of like the jaded girlfriend with the Raiders type of thing. But
Doesn't mean he's wrong.
But that doesn't automatically make him wrong. Take a listen.
Rich, but you can't start there because what happened was all the players complained to Mark Davis that it was too hard before. And so they went for a kinder, gentler program with Antonio because he was, quote unquote, a player's coach. So you fired McDaniels. And look, I'm not defending Josh. He made a lot of mistakes there, but he was trying to hold people accountable, trying to have harder practice, but the Patriot way wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to smoke cigars in the locker room. They wanted to celebrate their freedom. And now that they have all this freedom, they stink. But they can go to Dairy Queen after the game, which is always important because everybody participated. I mean, that's the most important thing, participation. Forget about winning. I mean, you and I have been part of I think you and I are the last time that actually franchise mattered, to be honest with you. And until Mark Davis steps aside and lets somebody of a professional nature who actually understands what his father stood for, there's no chance they're going to win.
So obviously his son, Mike Lombardi, was under Josh McDaniels. And so he comes in with that little level of bias. And also he is out to stick it to the Raiders. So any chance he has, he's going to. But you tell me where the lie is. I mean, the players revolted against Josh McDaniels correctly. He was awful. He was terrible. They were losing, and he just didn't get the best out of them. I think that's the optimistic way to look at it, or these players are like, okay, this guy's dog shit. Let's please move on. But can we say, we'll be on a shadow of a doubt, that Mike Lombardi was completely wrong, that these players are just kind of like, you know what? We like Antonio Pierce, but we know what we like the most. We're out of here 2 hours earlier than we normally are.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. I think that if the team was winning, they would be okay with it.
Sure, I agree 100%.
That's the issue. So I don't know that, because he's trying to send out the narrative that the team is lazy and that the team wants an easier coach and they want an easier practice and they don't want to be held accountable. That's the narrative he's pushing subtly, that this team is full of guys that are lazy, don't want to be held accountable. The bottom line is, if Josh McDaniels and his way was working, he would still be there and he would have even more people wanting to come. So that's not the problem. The problem is they bought in, and with all of that comes with being on a Josh McDaniels team or a Patriot way team, it wasn't working. So if you have those two things happening at the same time, that's a huge issue. And that's why he was let go. So he wasn't let go just because he had ran hard practices. He wasn't let go just because he had really long accountability sessions and film sessions. That's not what happened. That's not the reason he was let go. He was let go because it didn't work.
He was let go faster because of all that, right? Like if they were losing as bad as they were, right? But the team loved him. They're like, it's just not working, but coach, we got your back. We can do this. He would be the coach right now. There's no doubt in my mind. He would be the coach he would still be the coach right now if they liked Josh McDaniels the way they liked Antonio Pierce. So you're right. Like if they were winning, this would be a moot point, right? But that's why I think they're going to stick with Antonio Pierce well into next season, despite with how terrible things are going. One, I don't think Mark Davis wants to pay a fourth head coach. Like he's paying John Gruden, he's paying Josh McDaniels. If he fires AP, he's have to pay AP and whoever the next head coach is next season. 4. That's 4 head coaches he'd have to be paying, right? 4 head coaches in 3 seasons. I don't think he wants to do that, A. And B, I think the players want to give him a run. They like him. So, again, I look at it more optimistically that he's a player's coach, and having players want to play hard for you is a thing. We saw it last season. Yeah, we got very lucky playing a lot of backup quarterbacks and things like that, but we weren't number 1 in penalties because we were playing backup quarterbacks. We weren't, amazing in takeaways and turnovers because you're playing backup quarterbacks. Like there was something brewing, right? It's like you talked about with Luke Getsy. Like if you're getting that 4 of the last 5 first drives or touchdowns, there's a winning formula in there. It's in there. You got to replicate it, which is the hard part, but it's in there. I think that's me being optimistic about what happened last season. But I mean, is it just impossible to think that, some of these players are just like, it's just easier under AP and I'm happy with it? I mean, it's kind of human nature, right? To go with you have 2 parents and one of them lets you have ice cream for dinner and the other one doesn't. Like, which one are you going to ask?
Yeah, it's just it's not an easy fix, man. It isn't. Because the thing is we're slowly getting pieces of information, but the problem is like the answer changes slightly every season.
Yeah.
Because you got new players coming in, old players leaving out. It's like, so the problem changes. So it's like, you got to be able to solve that puzzle quickly. And the puzzle is the salary cap. You can only pay so much for your players. You can only get so many people in. You got to get the right ones. You got to get to put them in the right position. You got to pay them right. And you got to coach them up right. And it doesn't stop because other teams are trying to win too. And that's why it is so important to have a good, solid foundation of an organization, because there's 31 other teams trying to do exactly what you're doing. And, you see these franchises that are constantly at the top of the standings, maybe not, championship contenders every single season, but they're not laughing stocks. And that's because they have solid leadership. And you see that in any venture, whether it's business, private sector, anything, it doesn't matter. You got good leadership, in family structures. If you got good leadership, it's going to be a strong environment to foster growth. And unfortunately, right now, it's just not that. And that does fall at the feet of Mark Davis. And I just think that Mark Davis needs to realize that he's an owner and just get out. Just get out of the way. Find somebody that is a good, smart person to run. He has one to run the business stuff. Business is going great. The team president, she's doing a great job. But find somebody on the football side to take that off of his plate, because he's not doing a good job at all of making the football decisions.
Mike Lombardi continues his conversation with Rich Gannon. Take a listen.
To me, Mark's got to make a decision. How do I want to build it? It needs to be a complete remodel. And Antonio Pierce isn't qualified to remodel a living room, let alone a franchise worth $8 billion. So I agree. I wouldn't trade Crosby. I would hire somebody, whether it's Mike Vrabel, whether it's Kirby Smart, whether it's somebody that comes in who's bigger than the program that you can't fire, right? That the players can't run to Mark Davis and complain and say, I want him fired.
So it's an interesting thing he's insinuating here, because we're still kind of burned from John Gruden being coach and GM and knowing how to do one pretty well and the other one terribly, right? So we're like, no coach GM, don't do that. John Gruden sucked at it. But there is some truth to what Mike Lombardi is saying, is you need almost like a dictator of some kind, so that all these other decisions aren't getting siphoned off to Mark Davis, yes man, right? And it feels like, again, this is a giant if, but if Tom Brady wants to do that, that kind of feels like what would happen with Tom Brady. Is like, yeah, maybe Telesco stays, maybe Antonio Pierce stays, but as far as running that front office, that scouting department, how business is done in the building, just like you said, corporate structure needs a massive overhaul. And that doesn't come by committee. That comes with individual strong leadership who can make decisive and swift action.
He has to take a step back, because the decisions that he's making, They're not good ones.
I honestly don't think Mark Davis wants to keep making these decisions, but he's forced to. Like, he doesn't have someone in place to hire a GM or a head coach.
Well,
He
he's
doesn't have a football guy.
He's forcing himself to, because he's surrounding himself with people that tell him what he wants to hear. And he'll just believe. It's like, it almost seems, I'm not in the room, you're not in the room, none of us are in the room, but it just seems like he'll believe the last guy he talked to.
Yeah.
And he can get sold on stuff. And he got sold on a bunch of different things. And it just, he needs to step away from that and just be the owner.
I reading the tea leaves, I think he wants to. Like, the interviews that he has done, the beat writers that have talked to him, he's very much, he comes right out and says, yeah, my dad could do all this because he was a football guy. Like, he knew football. So he can make football. He was a businessman and a football man. He can make those decisions together and be the czar until he, got senile and all fell apart. But, he won 3 Super Bowls by being the guy. Like, he was able to do that. And Mark Davis straight up says, I'm not that guy. I don't have the football knowledge of my dad. I need football decisions to be made by smart people. But he has yet to find that person to be that guy, to be the czar of football operations. And so that's why he's forced to play catch up, new GMs, hire the head coach.
Okay, but is he looking for a guy? Because he hasn't hired one.
I think the guys he's hired, he's wanted them to be those guys. I think he thought John Gruden would be that guy. I think John Gruden, take over everything. Take over everything. You do all the football. You make it work, right? I think you want him to be it. I think he wants Tom Brady to be that guy now. But I don't think he's ever. Yeah, I mean, he's never. I think he's hired GMs where he had big aspirations, take this off my plate.
GM is not an organizational. GM is football stuff. It's not the other stuff, because GM is not going to fire himself.
Well, it's like anything. You can be, your title can say GM, but you can walk into the front office in a department that's not yours and swing your dick around and get things the way you want. It's, again, you're right. He hasn't hired a president of football operations with that kind of power, because I don't think he's found a guy that can. He's hired guys with the expectation grow into that role.
So you're telling me Reggie McKenzie was supposed to be that guy?
I thought he had hopes for it. I thought he could be okay, maybe this guy can grow into that role. They don't grow on trees, Soto. It's
and you know what? And they're impossible to find if you don't look for them.
Well, and if you're that fucking good, do you go to the Raiders? If you're this brilliant team, if you're this brilliant football mind, this brilliant business mind, this amazing communicator, this guy that understands the corporate side of things, the grass and turf side of things, people, logistics. If you know all that stuff, is that where you want to go? A place
sure,
where you got
there's 32 of those jobs, and he's not going to be a GM, and he's not going to be a coach. He's going to be an executive. Those guys last a lot longer.
I think Mark Davis wants that. I think he just doesn't know how to hire that. I think he doesn't know what to look for in someone like that. And I think
it's really hard when you've been told yes your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to work for what he has. So how does he spot the traits that it takes? At least Al had to freaking cheat his freaking partners out of the deal, right? So he recognizes people that have similar traits. He doesn't even possess those traits himself.
This offseason,
use them at least.
This offseason, we need to do a Wondery edited podcast story of how Al Davis swindled the Raiders from his 2 partners. I don't think enough people know that story. It's almost it's more of a crime story than a sports story. It's great. Maybe in the offseason we'll do that.
It's pretty funny.
But again,
look at it, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty nuts, right? And it's kind of it's so shitty, but that's the kind of guy you kind of want running your football team. A cutthroat, It's me versus you. I'll do whatever it takes. And not just go into a back alley and stab someone in the back. It's set bait, let them go, have the paperwork signed beforehand, wait till they're out of town, make your move. And it to two dudes. You did to two guys. It's pretty wild.
The
Anyway,
guy's like, I would never let you do that to me. I would never do that to you. Wink, wink. So good. So damn good.
I mean, Mike Lombardi's a squirrely little weasel, but
yeah, he's a little fuckhead.
It's coming from the wrong place, but he's saying some right things. Like what he's saying is it's not groundbreaking, but it's jarring because he says it like a dickhead, but it's true.
No, yeah. he's saying he's using some absolutes that make it look and sound even worse than it actually is. Like he's insinuating a narrative that the Raiders are an organization of players that don't like to be held accountable.
He brought up
that's not the case.
And then
also he said that the Raiders will never win as long as Mark Davis is owning the team. That's not necessarily true either.
Well, he said until Mark Davis steps aside. I think was his.
Oh, he sells the team. He says
sells the team.
Sells the team.
He needs to step aside. He can step aside. And
that's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, that's. I mean, it's like that whole what's that fucking guy's name? That one
Jerry,
guy, like
Frank, Bill.
No, the
Todd,
fucking the
Rudiger.
guy, the fucking top G guy.
Frank, Larry,
the
Curly.
top G. Freaking, what's his name?
Gary, Mark,
the famous
Steve.
Internet guy that's like got taken out of all social media. Chicks hate him, dudes love him.
The famous.
He's a former kickboxer.
Oh, the like super chauvinistic guy.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I forgot his name too. Andrew Tate.
Boxer.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't listen. I mean, I couldn't even remember the guy's name, right? I don't listen to the dude, but I'll watch clips of what he says at times, and if you can pull the lesson and kind of like brush away the misogyny, he makes good points. It's just he goes that extra step he doesn't need to. And I understand he does it to like shock value and to like really kind of grasp attention and stuff like that. And I think that's what Lombardi's doing too is, yeah, the message is sound, but he just puts a little bit of extra salsa on the taco, you know? And it's like, come on, man, you don't need to put that much on there.
He brought up a name that kind of actually makes an insane amount of sense when he said Mike Vrabel. Because if Tom Brady's making those coaching decisions, it could be Vrabel. And Vrabel is that like strong personality, my way or the highway. We're fixing this thing from the ground up type of guy. I'm not saying I want, Patriot Way 3.0, but if Tom Brady's making the decisions and Vrabel's available.
What is the Patriot Way? What is it? Accountability? Yeah, you start telling me the other 30 teams besides the Patriots and us, they don't hold their players accountable either. Like, let's just stop with this whole Patriot Way nonsense. Because he was the coach of the Titans for quite some time.
Well, it's a style of coaching, right? Like there's like in Seattle, like he just like loves his player. Like Pete Carroll like loves his players into success. Like you hold them accountable and you motherfuck them every now and then, right? Like you do that, but they're not like, you never hear a Seahawks player be like, oh, dude, meetings just dragged on. He just drug us through the mud. It was just like a grind and no fun.
And Bruce Arians was like that too, with like Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
It's like it's not
there's guys like that too.
Only just one person that does it or one team that does it. Yeah, the Patriot Way was freaking on the arm of Tom Brady, dude. Because without him, they had no success.
And Belichick. It was that tandem, right? It was
okay.
It was craft with ownership. Well, Tom Brady didn't help that defense, right? That was Belichick.
Oh, he's a great defensive
all-star defense for 20 seasons.
How did that work out for him afterwards when he was gone? I'm not saying he's shit, but they would have not reached the high. Brady went somewhere else and won.
You never reached that level the Patriots did without all the things in place. You don't win that many Super Bowls without having great owner, great coach, great defense, great quarterback, a lot of luck. You know what I mean? Like
No,
all
yeah,
those things
I
went their way.
understand that, but like I kind of roll my eyes when I hear the Patriot Way thing. Yeah, Vrabel played for the Patriots, but he also coached at other places, and he was a head coach with Tennessee. So it's his own thing now. He's not doing it anyone else's way but his own now. It's like, are we shitting on a coach because he learned under another coach, and we're calling it his way instead of the coach that's actually coaching now? No, we don't do that to
No,
anybody else.
it's the Belichick coaching tree, but it's been trademarked the Patriot Way. That's all it is. It's like any other coaching tree. It's like, oh, he learned from this guy, learned from that guy, and his system's this way.
You know, he
It's
also
like, oh,
learned in other places too. So I mean, look, whatever you want to call it, it just irks me when people say that, because it's a negative connotation in Raider Nation. It's a negative connotation. Oh, Patriot Way, they don't want to do that. Well, it doesn't matter. Like Rory's just insanely upset about Tom Brady being a super minority owner of the team. What does it freaking matter? What does it matter? The more people that you have that are successful people that can potentially make good decisions for us to be successful in the future, I'm all for it. I don't have to win a certain way. I just want to win.
And that's a grown-up adult rational way to look at it. But I fully understand being like, God fucking damn it. I've hated this man for 20 years. And now I'm supposed to applaud him walking into my lobby. I get it.
Well, you don't applaud him. I mean, I understand why the people who work there did it. We don't have to applaud him until he actually does something. Mm-hmm. So he could still feel the way he feels about him as a player, but until Brady does something as an executive or as an owner, I mean, I'm not praising the dude. He hasn't done anything yet.
Raiders, what up, Windbags?
Sure, why not?
Once you're done coughing up along. A Spivvy.
God damn it.
It took you forever to correct me this time. Normally you're right on it. I guess we're 5th pick now, but could rise to number 2. Can you explain, Mr. Wonderful? It's all strength of schedule, right?
Yeah, if the teams that beat the teams in front of us start winning games, then their strength of schedule goes up, which means their draft stock with the same record as us goes behind us if the teams that beat us start losing games. So it's all strength of schedule.
Looking up the standings now, there are the Patriots are 2-7, the Browns are 2-7, the Jags are 2-7, the Raiders are 2-7, the Giants are 2-7, the Panthers and Saints are both 2-7. So there's a 2-7 team. There's 7 2-7 teams, one in every single division with the exception of the NFC South, where there's 2, and there's none in the NFC North and NFC West. NFC North. Really good squad, dude. Really good squad. So it's good for us that the AFC West is solid, right? Everyone's got a winning record but us. And the Chiefs are 8-0. So that helps because we're losing to better teams, right? So if you're the win percentage of our opponents are higher. Now we do have the Panthers loss and some other shitty losses. But our division's really good.
Actually, no, it's the opposite. If you're
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the opposite. So it works against us to play good divisions like the AFC North and the AFC West, because those teams have winning records. So the higher the winning percentage of our opponents, the lower we're behind. I mean, there's other tiebreakers involved too, but that's the main one.
So the Panthers, they've actually played some pretty good teams. Actually, they lost to the Saints, who are also 2-7. But the other teams they played: Chargers, Raiders, Bengals are bad, but Bears, Commanders, Broncos are good now. They do have the Giants, Cowboys. So it's really too early to like do the math on that. It's just kind of record, and then you'll figure out tiebreakers from there. But there's a lot of bad teams, and they're not getting better. You know what I mean? It's not like these bad teams are like, oh, the Saints just have all these injuries. They're going to bounce back. It's like, not really. You know, it's not like, oh, like the Panthers, they're great. They just got these injuries. They're going to bounce back. It's like, no, they're pretty terrible. Pretty terrible.
Pretty terrible.
Jack Bryan 4676. It's official. Derek Carr just got Dennis Allen fired for a second time. Yet another career milestone.
Got to be some kind of record.
I mean, Dennis Allen's pretty awful, and I think it's get himself fired pretty well. But it is kind of crazy that you are still there as quarterback and you outlast your coach twice. It's pretty nuts.
And he went out and got you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. Like with like with Aaron Rodgers, right? Getting his guy. Like they had like Robert, like Saleh was already there. Otherwise, he would have had his guy. He could have got him. He could have got him fired a couple times.
True.
If you would have went to the Broncos, you probably could have got him fired there. You know, definitely could have happened.
Definitely a possibility.
You got to be like Carr. Really is in a league of his own because you know now he's lost all 31 teams, and then it could be 32 if we beat the Saints.
That's just nuts, dude.
But week 16, 17, whenever
17,
New Year's,
second to last, yeah.
Because you have to be exactly perfect, right? You have to be good enough to be the starting quarterback for 12, 13, 14 seasons. You have to be on a bad enough team. Like the team has to be bad enough to lose. And you have to be bad enough not to rise that team out of being that bad. Like you have to be you have to like be tiptoeing a razor thin line to be able to lose to all 32 teams. Like you can't, I'm too good. I beat 3 guys. I'm not good enough. I got cut. I'm not starter anymore. Like you got to be right.
Well, that was one of the big,
perfect.
That's one of the big knocks on Carr is that he's good enough to keep his job, but not good enough to, put you over the top, to like hitch your wagon to him and have him carry you. And that's what he's been. And also he's been in a franchise that, was quarterback start for a lot of years. So like I said earlier in the episode, you can't look at a guy and compare him to who you have. You got to look at him and how does he compare to the league? And it seemed like we were looking at, well, he's the best guy we've had since Gannon. We got to stick with him. And it hasn't been working, even, going somewhere else. It didn't work there either. And I'm not saying it's all his fault because it's not. There's a lot of other things that go involved with that too. But the comment was about him. And it is interesting that Dennis Allen went to the well again. Fool me once.
Well, I think he was just jacked to get another head coaching job. You know what I mean? It wasn't like people, like franchises were breaking down the door.
Another nepotism hire, dude. He was there for a long time. Let's just hire this guy. People like him.
You know, our quarterback, our brand new quarterback likes him. Okay, let's bring him on board. Last one. Keith Pardini, 9065. Brock Bowers' girlfriend is a hot blonde from college. Look it up. So we were talking about it. Was it 2 post shows ago or last show? It was last show. Last show. Cameron Rose Newell.
Look at this brew.
Don't you worry. We looked her up, and yes. What was the conversation? We were wondering, like, what is this?
I said, he probably likes thick Mexican chicks.
Oh yeah. I'm like, no, I think he's like a just sweet white girl look.
And I'm like, dude, you're the whitest white guy I know.
Right? The 2 whitest guys you know have completely opposite chicks. Brock Bowers has just all American white girl, and I got a thick ass Mexican. Dude, she is gorgeous.
She's cute. She's an up and down white chick. Look, she's.
Are you really poo-pooing this right now?
I'm not. But like, I've seen chicks that look like that work at freaking Hot Dog on a Stick, bro.
I got a hot dog on a stick for her.
I teed you up for that one. I was waiting for you to knock that one out. She's a fit. She's young. She's hot because she's young already. So that makes her that gives her some points because she's younger. But she's a good looking girl. I'm not saying she's not. She's a very good looking girl. But does she have anything spectacular about her? Not really.
Soto is officially unimpressed. I like
No,
that
she's hot, dude. But it's like she's not like a IG model hot. She's more of like a corporate hot.
I've masturbated 3 times since I've gone through this already. Dude. You're crazy.
Well, okay. Well, then I'm crazy.
She knows how to dress herself. She knows how to take photos. She has the my pet peeve is posture. I have no idea why. It's the weirdest thing. I like bad like girls are like hunched over and like this, and it's all like She just knows how to like be at attention. Sign of a lady, you know? You're right, Soto.
Dude, she's
you're out of it. You're out of her league. You shouldn't even talk to her. Don't waste your time.
What I said whatsoever. I didn't say that at all. And I resent you pushing that narrative that I'm saying that.
I love this.
I didn't say that whatsoever.
I love this.
Because she looks like she's curvy in that picture, but she's not. And
also, she's smart enough to be next to a chick that's nowhere near as hot as her, so she looks hotter by comparison.
She's doing the whole like hand on the hip to make her look like she has curves type of thing. She's always pushing it to the side. Like, dude, she's a plain Jane white girl that has a really pretty face.
Plain Jane white girl.
Say the rest of it. Say the rest of it. Say the rest of it.
With a really pretty face.
There you go.
Plain Jane white girl with a really pretty face. Okay.
I'm not hating, dude. If that's what he likes, that's what he likes. I just
Plain Jane. Oh, she's wearing a onesie pajama, but not a pajama.
Just doesn't do it for me, man. Look, it's like there's 5 carbon copies in that picture.
Yeah. And I would eat all of their shit just to see where it came from.
Sure.
Matching. Look at them kind of matching. This is an adorable couple. All right. I got to go do something. I will be, unfortunately, not doing the... there's no post show this weekend. Yeah.
No post game show.
We get to just watch football for fun this weekend. I'm so excited. It's really a bummer, man, that we're barely into November, and I looked forward to our bye week. It really... Obviously, we're going to watch all the games, stick it out, because there's still a lot to learn. All right, what's Scott Turner going to do? Can AP keep the reins? Brock Bowers, is he going to be an all-pro? He's on road to be an all-pro, not just like rookie. Oh, yeah. Like
if he keeps doing what he's doing, all-pro.
If he's on this path, all-pro, rookie tight end. When you had Ritter, Minshew, and Farva throwing you the ball, and your offensive coordinator got fired halfway through the season, like there's all-pros, and then doing that. So there's a lot of things to look for this season. It's just a shame that I look forward to watching the other 31 teams on Sunday more than I do sometimes the Raiders. But it's just going to make it when we do win it all, be all the much sweeter. Until then, knock on wood up here with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.